Ever catch yourself like, lost in thought about the really big stuff? Like, what's it all about? And maybe you've even thought, what if I actually, tried that whole philosophy thing?
Ah, yeah.
Well, today we're going to dive into what a career in philosophy actually looks like, using some super interesting stuff from RoleCatcher. And get this,
Mm.
it's not all like tweed jackets and just, thinking about the meaning of life all day.
What I find so fascinating is how RoleCatcher really lays out this whole career path, almost like you're in training to become like a philosophical Jedi.
Okay, I love it.
They actually even use the term, get this, philosopher apprentice, which I kind of love.
That's amazing.
It reminds us that even, the greatest thinkers out there, they all had to start somewhere.
So no instant Plato status, huh? You got to work your way up. What does a quote-unquote philosopher apprentice even do besides, the whole pondering thing?
Well, RoleCatcher really emphasizes that philosophers aren't just like off in their own little world debating these abstract theories. They're actually working to develop solutions for real world problems.
Oh, wow.
Think of it as using logic and critical thinking to actually tackle the complexities of like our world today.
That's a side of philosophy I think a lot of people don't really realize. It's not just about those dusty old books. It's about using those ideas to make a real impact.
Absolutely. And this emphasis on logic and critical thinking, it's like having a superpower in today's world when you think about it.
Yeah.
How much information are we bombarded with every single day? So being able to cut through all that noise, analyze information effectively, and then actually construct a sound argument, those are invaluable skills no matter what you do.
Totally. It's like having a built-in BS detector.
Exactly.
So how do you actually climb that philosophical ladder? What's the progression like?
Well, RoleCatcher highlights how you move from a junior philosopher to a senior philosopher. And you start to take on more leadership roles. So you're guiding research, you're mentoring up-and-coming thinkers. It's like becoming this thought leader and shaping the direction of the whole field.
A thought leader. There's a term I think we should probably unpack a little bit for our listeners.
Yeah, it's a great point because you wouldn't necessarily associate something like, let's say, customer service with philosophy.
Right.
But when you think about what's at the heart of customer service, it's really about taking something complex and then making it clear and understandable to someone else.
Right.
And that's essentially what philosophers are doing when they're communicating these often very nuanced ideas to a wider audience.
Wow, that's actually a really interesting way to look at it. It's like they're translating between the world of abstract thought and everyday experience.
Exactly. And those communication skills, that ability to bridge that gap between these really complex ideas and a clear understanding, it's like gold in any profession.
Oh, yeah. Whether you're a philosopher, a teacher, an entrepreneur, you name it.
So even if someone listening isn't planning to go out and write, like, the next great philosophical treatise,
Right.
there's still so much they can gain from, developing these skills.
Precisely. And this is where RoleCatcher gets really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Because they've actually gone and integrated AI into their platform to actually help you hone those skills.
What?
Yeah, they have this massive database of, get this, over 120,000 interview questions specifically designed to help you prepare for a philosophy career.
Wait, hold on. 120,000 interview questions. For philosophy, that seems like a lot. What kind of questions are we even talking about here?
Well, it's not just about knowing, your Plato from your Socrates.
Right.
They really delve into those critical thinking skills we were just talking about, how you approach really complex problems, how you analyze different arguments, and then how you articulate your own ideas persuasively. And get this, they even have AI that will analyze your practice responses and give you feedback. Whoa. Okay. So that's next level. It's like having a digital Socrates, poking holes in your arguments, helping you refine your thinking in real time.
It's a really fascinating glimpse into the evolving relationship between technology and even the most abstract disciplines. Makes you wonder, if AI can analyze philosophical arguments, what does that mean for the future of philosophy itself?
Now that is a question worth pondering. And speaking of pondering, RoleCatcher really digs into the specific skills you need to actually succeed as a philosopher, and some of them might surprise you.
Yeah, one that really stood out to me was their emphasis on active listening.
Oh, interesting.
Because it's not just about sitting there and formulating your own brilliant ideas in isolation. It's about really, truly hearing and engaging with different perspectives, which is super crucial for any kind of meaningful philosophical discussion.
It's like that saying, right? You have two ears and one mouth for a reason. But it's not just about listening either. RoleCatcher highlights the importance of things like complex problem solving and judgment and decision making. It seems like philosophers aren't just, theorizing in a vacuum. They're applying these skills to real world situations.
Exactly. And to do that effectively, you need a really solid grasp of not just philosophy itself, but also related fields. So psychology, sociology, history,
Yeah.
the whole shebang. RoleCatcher really emphasizes this kind of interdisciplinary approach, which I think really reflects the interconnected nature of knowledge itself.
It's like a giant web, right?
Yeah.
Each discipline is like a thread. And
hmm
to really understand the whole tapestry, you need to see how they all connect.
And, that's something that's applicable to so many aspects of life, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's like they say, everything's connected, man.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe that's not how the saying goes, but you know what I mean. But seriously, if you're looking to build that kind of, well-rounded philosophical foundation, where do you even begin?
Well, RoleCatcher actually provides a whole roadmap.
Okay.
And it's not just about, going and getting your traditional philosophy degree.
Right.
They actually highlight the value of exploring these related fields, like psychology, sociology, history, which makes sense, right? If you're trying to grapple with, the big questions, it helps to understand how those questions have, played out in different contexts.
It's like they always say,
Yeah.
history repeats itself.
Yeah.
So you're saying a broad knowledge base is key for any aspiring philosopher.
Definitely. But it's not just about formal education either.
Okay.
RoleCatcher stresses the importance of continuous learning. So that means, reading philosophical texts, attending conferences, engaging in debates. It's a lifelong pursuit, this whole quest for knowledge and understanding.
It's like staying intellectually hungry, right?
Yeah.
Never stop questioning, never stop exploring new ideas.
Exactly. And it's not a solitary pursuit either.
Oh.
One of the things I really appreciate about RoleCatcher's approach is how they highlight the community aspect of philosophy.
Okay, yeah.
So they actually list a bunch of professional organizations and associations specifically where philosophers can connect, share ideas, challenge each other.
So it's not all just like, sitting alone in your room, stroking your chin and contemplating the void.
Right.
There's actual human interaction involved.
There is. And I think that's really important to remember because even in this day and age of, all this digital communication,
Yeah.
those face-to-face interactions, those really passionate exchanges of ideas, that's where things really start to click.
Right.
That's where innovation happens, where these new perspectives really emerge.
It's like that feeling you get when you're having a really good conversation and then suddenly you just see things in a whole new light,
Exactly. And that's what's so exciting about philosophy. It's constantly evolving.
Yeah.
There are always new ideas, new perspectives emerging all the time. And RoleCatcher, to their credit, they don't shy away from that. Remember that whole AI integration we were talking about?
Oh, yeah.
That really speaks to, I think, their willingness to embrace that kind of cutting edge of technology and how it can actually impact even philosophical thought.
Yeah, it was kind of mind-blowing. It really makes you wonder. If AI can analyze philosophical arguments, where does that leave, us human philosophers?
It's a fascinating question, and I think it really speaks to the enduring power of philosophical inquiry. Because even as technology is advancing, at this crazy rate,
Yeah.
those fundamental questions about existence, knowledge, morality, all that, they remain as relevant as ever.
More relevant, maybe, right.
Right.
I mean, think about all the ethical dilemmas that are emerging now with artificial intelligence, with biotechnology, with climate change.
Exactly.
We need, seriously sharp philosophical minds to help us actually navigate these challenges.
Absolutely. We need people who can think critically about the implications of these advancements, who can help us establish, ethical frameworks for how we're actually going to use these technologies. Yeah. And who can guide us towards a future that really aligns with, our values as human beings.
It's like having a moral compass in this world that's changing faster than we can keep up with.
Precisely. And that's why I think RoleCatcher's insights are so valuable. They're not just outlining some career path, they're highlighting why philosophical thinking is so crucial for navigating the complexities of, our time,
It's like they're saying, hey, look, you might not be a, quote-unquote philosopher by profession.
Right.
But in a world that's facing these kinds of massive challenges, we could all use a little more philosophical thinking in our lives.
Exactly. And, speaking of seeing how this all plays out in the real world,
Yeah.
RoleCatcher provides these really interesting mini profiles of actual philosophers at different stages of their careers.
Oh, right. They call the entry-level folks philosopher apprentices, which I have to say I'm kind of obsessed with that term.
It's a good one.
It's great. What's next on, like, the philosophical career ladder?
It is a good one. Junior philosopher is next, according to RoleCatcher.
So you're past the apprentice stage, striking out on your own. What's a junior philosopher actually doing?
This is where it gets really interesting. You're not just like reading and learning anymore. You're actually starting to contribute to the field.
Okay.
RoleCatcher highlights stuff like, doing your own research, presenting at those conferences, and maybe even getting your work published.
So you're out there testing your ideas, getting feedback,
Yeah.
really making a name for yourself. It's like any career, you got to put in the work.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're headed down that academic path, the next step, RoleCatcher says, is becoming a full-fledged philosopher.
Ooh, no more junior. You've made it to the big leagues. What's that like day to day?
Now you're seen as a leader in your area, leading those big research projects, mentoring those grad students, publishing books and articles that everyone's reading.
So you're not just debating what other philosophers have said, you're adding your own voice to the mix, shaping the future of philosophy. It's kind of incredible.
Yeah.
But RoleCatcher also mentioned that not every philosopher becomes a professor.
Right.
Right.
Right. There are tons of paths a philosophy career can take. They pointed out that some philosophers with this experience become like consultants.
Oh, interesting. What's that like?
So they're advising companies or organizations on these tough ethical issues or like really complicated decision making.
So they're taking all those critical thinking skills they've developed, putting them to work on real-world problems.
Precisely. It really shows how valuable that philosophy background can be. It's not just theory. It's a mindset that's useful everywhere.
It's about knowing the right questions to ask, thinking about all the different sides, really understanding what our choices mean. Those are important whether you're writing a big philosophy paper or, like you said, running a company.
I couldn't agree more. And I think that's what makes this whole deep dive so worthwhile. It's not really about, becoming a philosopher, but realizing how powerful philosophical thinking is no matter what you do in life.
It's about that intellectual curiosity, that love for learning, always wanting to question and explore. Those are good things to have no matter what.
For sure.
Well, on that note, maybe it's time for our listeners to do a little reflecting of their own.
I like it.
What big questions are you wrestling with about, well, everything? And could a little philosophy help you find some answers? Until next time, keep those brain gears turning.